Hi, I'm MJ from Lioness Publication. On the anniversary of Katrina, I decided to do a few sessions on Katrina. The first one, we're going to be looking at the United States chart and seeing what it showed us about Katrina, the hurricane. Now, just as a note, Katrina happened, in effect, in one night. What happened was the hurricane was coming. People were always worried about the levees and stuff like this and the flooding. But when everyone went to sleep that night, everyone thought it was fine. They thought New Orleans escaped the damage. But turns out in the morning that it wasn't the frontward waters that were going to be devastating. It was the backward waters. So in the morning, it's when it flooded. And then it went from there. You had people stranded, you had people in the stadium, people waiting to be rescued, people waiting for things. And that evolved over a few weeks. So this was not, in most cases, it was not a calamity that happened and then it was finished. It went on over time. And it was one of the first major calamities like this in the United States. And frankly, it wasn't handled very well. And it could be that there just wasn't enough experience. The United States did learn from this, and they actually put together a lot of rules and procedures and ways to deal with this, which unfortunately are being taken down now by the current administration. Now, we're going to be looking at three charts here. We're going to be looking at the United States transits, the progressions for the United States, and the solar arc. And that's going to be for the date that Katrina happened, which is August 29th, 2005. But remember, it happened over days. It happened over weeks. So the full extent of the damage happened over a period of time versus the actual event happened overnight. Now, I'm going to do something a little different here too, and I'm going to have two more sessions after this. I'm going to have one for Louisiana, and I'm also going to have one for New Orleans. Because I want to show people how it's not just a country chart. It's also a state chart, and it's also city charts that can be involved in these. In some cases, events that years ago would have been showing up in the United States charts, because it's so commonplace, no longer show up in the United States chart. And they might instead show up in the state chart or in the city chart. So we're going to have two more sessions after this, one on the state and one on the actual city. I'll try and make them short, but there is a lot of detail to go over. So I'll try and just keep it to the major things that are saying, yeah, there's something going on here. So let's take a look at the transit. And again, the middle chart here is the United States. The outer chart is the transit. So one of the things that are telling me, yes, there's something definitely going on around this time. There's actually a few things. First, we've got Pluto. Pluto is making an opposition to Mars. In effect, control here, Mars is action. No control. This is an opposition. It's not working. It's an unfriendly angle. So in effect, not able to control what's going on. Pluto is also square to Neptune. Since we're looking at this after the fact, we can now understand that Neptune is maybe a not complete understanding of the potential ramifications of what was happening. And we can also understand that this is water. So a lot of times when we have natural disasters showing up, we'll see it either as things like Neptune with water, we'll see it with fire, with Mars. So in this case, it's showing up both as confusion about this event and also as water. Now, these are definitely heavy type angles, and we currently have angles like that going on in the United States. Not foretelling water damage, but in effect, hitting Venus and our Jupiter, which is in effect hitting the people of the United States. We are, in effect, being invaded by the military of our own country. But I've talked about that in other videos. I won't go into that here. So let's take a look at what else is happening here. We've got Uranus. Uranus on Uranus. It's a square, unfriendly angle. So what is this? It can be rebellion, revolt, typically unexpected things happening. Now, it is hitting Uranus in the United States chart. That's our innovation. That's where we, create things that are new, that are different. That's where we tend to take a different tack. Well, what happened was the unexpected thing of this Katrina wasn't something that the United States could deal with all the technology it had. All that technology failed. It didn't tell us that, in effect, the damage would come from behind when the levees broke. It didn't tell us what would happen with all the people there. So our technology was lacking, definitely lacking. What else do we have here? We have Saturn. Saturn is sitting on what? The North Node. North Node is where we take in. Saturn is restriction. Now, this was playing out over time here, meaning that that area was restricted. There's no way to get things in. So for days, nothing was moving. Eventually, they were able to get supplies in. But even that took so much time. Now, there are a few other things here. We have Eris, which is an object you associate with catastrophes. It is sitting on the wounded warrior. But in this case, it is. It caused wounds for everyone that was watching this on TV. But more importantly, the wounded warrior is the ruler of the 10th house. 10th house is the president. He was negligent in what he was doing. He wasn't prepared. He didn't do a good job. And I'm not saying any other president could have done better. What I'm saying is he wasn't prepared. And that's just a fact. It took too long to get mobilized, to get aid there. And there were issues of whether Louisiana was going to handle this, or the president, or who was going to do it. At some point, don't argue. Just get help there. It was a deficiency. And I pretty much like Bush, I'm a libertarian, so I'm middle of the road. What else do we have? We have Mars, making an inconjunct to Saturn. Mars is action. So you have action trying to come in on what? On the foundations, on the structures, trying to fix things. You can't. It's a break and adjust angle. Not able to do it, not able to fix things, not able to get anything in there. Let's go on to the next one, which is the progression. What do we see here? Well, first off, we see Mercury in opposition to the black moon, which is an alternate path. Mercury here is telling us a little bit about what happened here. An alternate path for the flow. So Mercury here is movement. In effect, the hurricane went over the area where they were expecting it to be catastrophic, but it turned out that it was after that happened. The levees in the back broke, and that's what flooded the area. Now, we also have Saturn. It is trine to Venus here. So what's happening is that, yes, they were trying to build up the infrastructure. They were trying to focus on helping what? The communities. They did try. Who was trying? All these smaller rescue organizations, things like, I think it was the Cajun Navy. Okay, there were, in effect, caravans going down from cities all over the United States of supplies, of equipment, of things, of clothes, food, things they needed. So people in their own way were trying to help. We had Jupiter, though, squaring Saturn. What's happening here? Too much. It's a square. Doesn't work well. Jupiter, too much stuff going on, so that means restrictive. Because there's so much and there's no way to handle that. So that is, again, something else that is just prone to fail. What else? Venus opposing Saturn. So Saturn here is trying to help the people, but here the rules, procedures are not letting that happen. So again, two different ways that it was a catastrophe. When it happened, it was a catastrophe after it happened. They couldn't get the people out of the places like the stadium. They couldn't get the people off the highways. So now let's take a look at our next page, and this is the solar arc. Here, biggest things we're seeing is Uranus making an inconjunct to the black moon, the alternate path. As I noted, this is Uranus a change. There was a change from the path that people expected. So in effect, it went over, but that was not where the damage was. It was afterwards. Now we also have Mars. Mars is trining Uranus. Again, Uranus is the innovation. Uranus is the change. Mars is the action. People were trying to act. They were trying to get things done. Now we have also Venus making a trine to Mars. This is another indication. People were trying to help. People were coming in to do actions. They were trying to put together things to help the people. Now we have Jupiter in conjunct to Neptune. Jupiter, too much of something. Neptune, a fogginess, not sure of things. So in effect, too much. Neptune is also water. All of this was pointing out that there was some, and there's nothing here saying it was Louisiana, but there were things saying that a lot of water here, a lot of unexpected, a lot of Pluto. So if we come back, we have Pluto. And by the way, Pluto over here. Pluto on Mars. Mars is the ruler of the fifth house. And this is back on the transits. So when we have connections to the fifth house, it can also indicate states. Connections to Mars can indicate it's the states. So this was what was going to be impacted. So in the other angles that we were looking at when we had Mars, it's also indicating, as in this case, the states. Now, have anything changed that? I don't know. But did things change afterwards? Yes. Like I noted, things were changing afterwards because people understood now, after that catastrophe, what was needed to handle something like that. And that's one reason why FEMA came in. FEMA knew how to handle emergencies, catastrophes like this, and they set up procedures, they set up ways to do things. That's being taken away now. So when we look at this 20 years after the fact, so much was implemented because of Katrina is now being taken away. So we'll be looking at 2 more charts after, actually 6 more, 3 more in the next session and 3 more after that. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.